Nonetheless, I just had to get that out there. My man, he's back. Is that a good clip to play on the day that Derrick Williams has committed to Texas?
Yeah, it is. Well, first thing, I would have laughed at the name. What is it, Jim Bob Thomas?
J. Bob Thomas.
J. Bob Thomas. That sounds like
it
the
sounds
name
like an assistant baseball coach is what it sounds like.
Or the name of a 3-person country music morning show. J. Bob. Gotta love it. There is no better coach's name than Jim Bob Cooter. Remember him? None. Never. Jim Bob Cooter.
There will never in the history of sports. Like, what do you say? Hey, Coach Cooter. That sounds like a very northern Louisiana high school football coach. Coach Cooter, you know?
Oh, man. I'm feeling great, Blake. And I know we're supposed to act like the world is melting down. Think about it. You could be a Florida Gator right now and have your entire world get shattered when your own in-state school got Jaden Rashada. Now, I'm not deflecting off the big story here that Derrick Williams is indeed looking like he's going to Texas. But, Blake, it goes back to what we talked about last week, okay? Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys were trending away from LSU before the last staff was even in place.
Correct.
Even when Ed Orgeron wasn't, fired yet, I don't think a lot of people would have thought Eli Holstein and Arch Manning were going to go to LSU anyway.
Correct.
Right?
Or Tackett Curtis.
Or Tackett Curtis. So this is a very interesting Louisiana crop. Now, it does sound like I'm making excuses, and it is an excuse, but a kid is going to decide where he wants to go, right?
Agreed.
This is not a draft per se. The kid has all the leverage. He can pick wherever he wants to go. So, number one, this, everybody says this. Everybody with a rational brain says this is don't tweet at recruits. Don't go after them. Let them choose what they want to do. Because there's going to be people around Derrick Williams that say, well, by God, you betrayed all of us. You should never do that, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, though, is specifically with each and every one of these kids, there was a lot of smoke for them to go elsewhere before the new staff even came in. In fact, you give, Brian Kelly and his staff a lot of credit, getting Eli Holstein on campus, getting Tackett Curtis on campus. They did those things, right? But recruiting is you either land the kid or you don't. Those nuances don't come into play, and that's how it probably should be. So I wouldn't melt down. Now, for me, Blake, Derrick Williams was my number 2 player in 2023, and he still is. He's a really good football player. Only Shelton Sampson to me is better. And to me, if for some reason LSU doesn't get Shelton Sampson done and Delance Hurd done, that's when you really, like you said a minute ago, Blake, you start hitting the panic button. But still, I've already gotten a message from a few of my viewers, and I know your comment section is litty like you know what right now about everything that's happened over the past 24 hours.
So let's start with Derrick Williams, and you mentioned Rashada. I want to get there. I don't think the kid's getting paid $9.5 million.
No.
Right.
No,
so,
no.
Carter, I have heard, and I know that you probably have, and you mentioned it. After Orgeron was fired, contact with these players were not happening. Orgeron would make public appearances, Jacoby Matthews. It was all about this upcoming class. It was never for next year. We heard from Tackett Curtis, who said that he never heard from Orgeron he never heard from LSU until the day that Brian Kelly was officially announced and hired at LSU. And then he takes a visit. Carter, are you with me a little bit? And I get this Lance Hurd and Sheldon Sampson, but I think that trends well. Are you with me, though, however? I might not panic so much with this class, but you start getting into 2024 and this starts becoming a recurring theme, okay, then we have an issue. But there are some things that I think have to happen, and they are happening. But are you with the portal, what do you think about this class And does Brian Kelly get a lot of the blame here?
No, I mean, this goes for any coach, right? And I would even though I kind of trolled him yesterday, I would defend Billy Napier to a certain extent. You just got there. You've not coached a game yet. We don't know what the product looks like with you between a headset. So does some blame go towards LSU if they did not do enough to get Derrick Williams? Yeah, sure. Why not? I never absolve anyone from full responsibility of anything. With that said, though, it is still very, very, very early. And look, I understand people are like, well, you sound like a homer. No, it's just the truth, right? Like I've talked some Florida fans off a ledge, right? Mario Cristobal is one of the best recruiters in the game. Like, he knows how to play the game. There is a reason why he got Jaden Rashada to Miami. Okay, every first-year coach is going to struggle getting the recruit that everybody wants to get, right? It's really, really hard to do. So, yes, should you panic a little bit about the 2023 class? Yeah, because this is a very loaded 2023 class. But, Blake, something else that's happening with 2023 recruiting is non-SEC schools in general have been doing better than the SEC schools, right? Ohio State's got the best recruiting class. Notre Dame arguably has number 2 or 3. Michigan State is putting together arguably their best class of all time. A lot of these other schools are doing really well right now. And Blake, you want to know why they're doing really well?
Because it's a playing field with NIL.
Playing field with NIL. And these other schools, bottom half SEC schools as well, they have put more resources. They have done a better job hiring more talented head coaches, okay? Diaz wasn't good at Miami. They got Mario Cristobal, who's one of the best recruiters in the country. Mel Tucker is obviously, doing big things at Michigan State. Give Marcus Freeman credit for what he's done in Notre Dame, and so on and so on and so on. All the other schools throughout college football, they've put more money into their college football programs, and the coaching right now in college football is really good, even outside the SEC.
Lamar Stevens sends us $4.99 via Super Chat. Brian Kelly and LSU need to play football, then things will fall into place. Let me piggyback a question off of that.
Yeah, that's good.
What happens if Sark and them do go 7-5 again? I mean, and then he starts getting on the hot seat. There are factors here. I asked LSU fans earlier tonight if LSU goes 9-3 and start flipping some of these recruits, things start changing a little bit.
Yeah. And look, you win that first game versus Florida State, a lot of things change, right? Of course, you should do a better job of visiting recruits and getting the best players on campus, right? We can get into a discussion about Jordan Matthews and all these other 2023 kids, but I do respect this, okay? I think we need to remember that Brian Kelly wasn't familiar at all with anything LSU before he took this job. Like, of course, he knew of LSU. He knew of Death Valley. He knew of all these things. But as a coach, you want to evaluate kids before you go full out press before
you go at Orgeron.
Yeah, yes, because, you want to get your own personal evaluation. Now, a guy like Derrick Williams, your evaluation doesn't really matter as much because he is a top 50 guy and he's a big Louisiana prospect. You just trust everyone else to know what they're saying. But the truth still remains the same. Like, I get this question a lot. Why are we pursuing this kid harder? And why haven't we offered this kid or that kid? Because the evaluation process is really hard, especially when you're moving to an entirely different part of the country. So that's why that super chat was really, really good. If you win, the rest will take care of itself. And once again, as Rob points out, and Rob's one of the sharpest YouTube commenters out there, no one player makes the team. Take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. And if LSU wins this year, everything will work itself out.
Not LSU related, but I want to ask you one more thing about recruiting before we move on.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, two things, because I want to talk about D-line and Jamar Cain. Jaden Rashada. Carter, I'm just telling you, I will give you $9.5 million of my money that I don't have if he signed for 9.5. I thought it was weird. His advisor and the Mr. Diaz, the big billionaire booster at Miami, who's been in Cabo since Tuesday, who allegedly per On 3 met with him while in Cabo. How, I don't know. Do you think that this is just crazy? I mean, and look, you have people putting values on kids. This kid's 16. What do you like? It feels off to me that you're putting a value on a young man. Am I going nuts?
Yes and no, because the kids don't mind, seeing a recruiting site that has a certain amount of money next to their name. That would
I didn't mind being fat until somebody told me I was.
Look, okay, here's my thing. Jaden Rashada did not get paid that much money. That's an insane amount of money. Now, if that is, the amount of money he makes over the course of 4 years, if he turns out to be who we expect him to be, sure, but he's not going to be there 4 years if he is who you expect him to be. I don't believe that number's true. I don't. Because look, if you're an agent, you want that number to be true because that means a lot more of your clients are going to make more money, right? Mm-hmm. Always remember this when it comes to money. When something leaks, and this is just in general, right? When something leaks, always ask this question: who does it benefit? Right? That's a key thing. Now, as far as Rashada is concerned, I don't think this is like a gigantic, like unbelievably backbreaking loss for Florida and Billy Napier. But this is what you as LSU fans, and look, you're a fan. Anybody that's watching this, you're a fan. You can act the way you want to act. You can melt down over recruits. You can do whatever you want. It's not the end of the world that Billy Napier didn't get this really good quarterback prospect.
Correct.
But the way a lot of Florida fans reacted to it, acted like it was the case. And I think a lot of that had to do with Rashada picking Miami and Florida being the official visit and him pushing.
If he would have picked USC or Oregon, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
It wouldn't have, but Florida fans are going to melt down, right? So I ask LSU fans over this Derrick Williams commitment, don't melt down. Don't do it. It looks bad. It makes your program look very desperate. And that is something LSU doesn't need to be right now. There's nothing to be desperate about because you don't know what the program's going to look like until you actually go out there and win some football games. So I found this to be interesting, Blake. I did think Florida fans melted down a little too much over this. Like, calm the down. Calm down. Please calm down. I know.
Calm the fork down.
I know all the 2023 quarterbacks are flying off the shelves. And I know LSU might not get Dante Moore and so on and so on and so on. But just calm down, okay? That's all I ask people to do. Calm down. Because now with the transfer portal and a lot of different things, these recruiting losses just aren't as stingy as they used to be.
Well, and with the portal, I mean, Carter, literally almost 7 months ago, we had 34 guys that could actively play.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So now we're wondering if LSU's going 9-3 from what they did in the portal. Carter, their entire secondaries from the effing portal.
Yeah. And look, and I know I'm an LSU fan and I know I'm being positive right now, but anyone that watches my channel knows I'm objective, right? I try my best to be as objective and as fair and critical when I need to be critical and so on and so on. I really do mean this. This Derrick Williams thing isn't that big of a deal. Even though he's the number 2 player for me in Louisiana, it's going to take a lot for me to not feel that way. That kid is really, really good. It's not the end of the world. It just isn't. That's just it's the truth. I'm not just like sugarcoating this just to sugarcoat it, right? Mm-hmm. And you're not either. We're not saying this. It's just it's the dead part of the season. SEC Media Days is still a few weeks away, and we got to have something to panic about. This was not a quarterback. This was not the end of the world. It's fine. I promise you, it's fine.
So there are some things trending positively for LSU, and that comes on the lines of scrimmage. Some things are trending that Jamar Cain is going out and possibly going to get some commitments from out-of-state defensive linemen, and that Brad Davis is going to start hitting on the offensive line. Carter, I got to be honest here. If I'm going to lose a Derrick Williams, but I'm going to get a 5-star offensive lineman, I get that it's out of state and you want to have both of them. I understand that. But there does come a part of me, though, that, okay, well, and look, this is the full Brian Kelly, the first real recruiting that he has, and he's playing a lot of makeup. But if they go out of state and start pulling in guys up front, well, what do you think about that? Like, if they start getting the hog mollies up front that look like my ugly ass, do you think that the vibe starts changing around LSU?
All right, so let's take a look at the data, right? Let's take a look at the positions that do transfer the most, right? My buddy J. Bud Davis just released a chart on this today.
Speaking of names, J. Bud and J. Bob and T. Bob and H. Bob and
J. Bud Davis, good friend of mine, really good, sharp, analytic guy. I use a lot of his data on my channel. So quarterbacks, wide receivers transfer the most. Offensive linemen don't transfer as much, right? So you have to build a lot of your teams through recruiting if you're going to build an offensive line. And that kind of makes sense, right? Offensive line is a big chemistry position. It doesn't matter what kind of system you run. You got to have chemistry with your offensive line up front. So if you really think about it, a lot of LSU's best offensive linemen were non-transfers, right? They were guys that some of them were 3 stars, some of them were 5 stars.
Cushenberry, Damian Lewis.
Yeah, and Damian Lewis was a JUCO guy, but I mean that's a little bit different, right? So I do like what I've seen as far as getting these offensive linemen in. I know a lot of your viewers saw the full recruiting visit with the South Carolina offensive lineman. That was really cool. They got the top 100 guy from Don Bosco from New Jersey on campus. You've seen a lot of really good offensive linemen stepping foot. Now, there's not been a first-round offensive lineman drafted at LSU since Alan Faneca, 1998. Now, obviously,
Whitworth didn't go in the first round?
Who?
Whitworth?
Yeah, he went second round.
Oh, see, I thought he went first to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he went second round.
Okay,
right?
Nevertheless.
Yeah, and I think only Whitworth and Posick were the only 2 second rounders since 98. So, I kind of like this when it comes to Brian Kelly. And this was one of the big objectives.
God, I hate it when you're right. Yeah, we just got it. Second round, 55th pick.
Right.
Why are you always right?
I'm not. I'm wrong about a lot. But the one thing.
No, you're not.
The one thing that we could all agree on, okay, is that LSU, if there was a position offensively, and I do think this is a little unfair, but it's, the truth. If there is a position offensively that they don't have a brand, it's offensive line because of the lack of draft picks, where Alabama's got an offensive line brand, even though their offensive line sucks right now. Georgia does as well. Our best lineman in Louisiana the past 5 years is their best offensive lineman right now. So Cedric Van Pran. But nevertheless, Brian Kelly does have an offensive line pedigree to him. He's got arguably the best in college football.
Zach Martin and Nelson, right?
Yeah, clearly, yeah, and so on and so on. So, yeah, I if you get out of state offensive linemen, especially considering you do have Adams, you do have Zalance Hurd in this class as well. Man, I would love a 5 offensive lineman class of all 4 stars and better. Because, yes, you could be as high as you want on Emory Jones. You could be as high as you want on Will Campbell and so on and so on. That I still think that room needs some rebuilding. And, with BK, hopefully with the guys that we have in there now, those guys become better football players as well.
The argument that – now let's get to the field. The argument that I've had, and I get that you lose Derrick Williams today. If you do get Sheldon Sampson, okay,
big.
If you do get Kylan Jackson, if you do go get Michael Dodery out of Georgia, who, quite honestly, we beat Georgia for, and Georgia fans were pissed off about it. If you do go get the hog mollies up front, and you're able to still get the pieces like Shelton Sampson, Carter, I got to be honest, I'm really intrigued, man. The best defense and offensive lineman that LSU has had. I could make the argument 2007, 2011, and 2019. Because, Carter, we're always going to be able to get some of these Louisiana big-time pieces on the outside, on the perimeter, at safety, whatever it may be. I mean, and look, I forget who this was as well. Ann Marshall said Andy Ingram was the second rounder too. That's true.
This year. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right. Somebody just said this, and I'm missing it. But Harold Perkins was committed to Texas A&M for a hot little minute. And if we're talking about NIL and LSU not being in the game, what makes me think if Texas goes 5-7, you can't go to little, and I'm using this IHOP and pancake flip that thing.
Right.
I just don't like panicking about recruiting this early out. Maybe it's just me. All right, I want to get to the field. Carter, I got to tell you something, and I know that you'll like this. We're trying to post a Joe Sloan interview. It's going to be here tonight or tomorrow.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited.
Buddy, I'm going to tell you something. I think that they're going full out spread, and let's throw that bitch.
Let's do it.
The way that he talks about offensive football makes me think that we sit down with a Power 5 head coach. I'm serious. I mean, I'm picking at him before the interview, and I'm like, so what are you doing in this cover 2? And you got an X is running this, but the safety's kind of already shaded over there to take away Booty. He goes, well, that's funny you say that because this is what they're going to do in the flat, and this is why we run this route on the outside, and we're sitting there on the chalkboard. I looked at Matt Trent, and I'm just like, all right, I'm shutting up.
Do it.
Dude, and the connection that him and Mike Denbrock and Brian Kelly have is very unique. Carter, with the pieces that LSU does have on the outside and what you're going to be today starts your running back tutorial, right?
Oh, yeah. Tonight we're dropping it, man.
Okay. So with that being said, Carter, when you have that high level of a schematic coaching, how much that you've looked into does this pan out on the field from a win-loss perspective?
Yeah, and that's great, right? I do like that there's 3 different philosophies, right? Where, Brian Kelly, he doesn't call it mesh. I don't know, I actually saw the play sheet that he used at Notre Dame not too long ago. But he runs a lot of mesh concepts and that kind of stuff, and that's obviously great. What's very interesting is Louisiana Tech, like LSU last year, ran a lot of 10 personnel, so 4 wide receiver sets, and they spread it out. So it's going to be interesting. And honestly, I understand that you do a lot of deep breakdowns on your channel. That's what my channel is, are these deep breakdowns. But guess what? Life sometimes ain't that deep, right? The bottom line is you got to figure out who the quarterback is. And I know every live chat that you do and that I do from now until actual week 1 is going to feature some kind of debate under the comment sections in different chat rooms. Doesn't matter what app you use. Who's the quarterback going to be, right? And it's not so much who the quarterback is going to be. It's how do you build around whoever that is going to be, right? So that's going to be very interesting. Now, as far as Joe Sloan is concerned, I did find it interesting that Jaden Rashada's dad mentioned Joe Sloan by name. And something else, just from reading interviews, right? I don't know Joe Sloan personally. I have friends that do know him well. Don't know him personally. Don't know anyone. I'm no familiarity. But objectively speaking, I do see his name pop up in a lot of recruit interviews. I do. And that means you're putting in work, right? Because most recruits, when they speak of recruiting visits, they speak vaguely, right? They're like, oh, everything was great. And honestly, it is. Most recruiting visits are great. But once they provide specificity and you see Joe Sloan, it's obviously really good, right? That does make you feel good about the potential of hopefully landing Dante Moore or maybe an elite quarterback, DJ Lagway in 2024. LSU lands him. We all shut up, right? So, that's obviously really good to see that as well. So I'm excited to see this Joe Sloan interview, man. I saw you and Matt. I saw you with the shorts.
I was bringing it. I was bringing the heat.
Excited.
Like, why aren't you running Spider 2 Wild Banana? Like, why aren't you running Spider 2? What the frick are you doing, Sloan? I was in him. And look, but in all honesty, It's very, look, I've been around a lot of college coaches in my day, and you know a lot of them, but I don't remember ever having a conversation with one outside of Joe Brady that was that X's and O's, like, all right, well, you're going to do this. Oh, you want to play that? Sounds good. I'm going to call the same effing play, but the Z is going to run a quick slant and you're burned. Dude, there gets to a point where it's on a different level. And that's what I expect from LSU's quarterbacks. And Carter, here's the thing. He's not the offensive coordinator because he talks about Denbrock in such a light that it's like, dude, just watch the interview because he's going to say something in there that makes you go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. All right, Carter.
So you don't know when it's dropping? You don't know when it's
YouTube's being tonight or tomorrow. I promise you.
I need to see this right now. I'm super excited.
I know, but you know how things happen, and Rudy Poo start Rudy Pooing sometimes, and I'm talking to you, YouTube. But anyway, all right, Carter, you got a big, massive breakdown this week. I am not trying to brag, but I pretty much was your main source and everything.
No, you did help me. No, you're what?
No, I did.
No, you did. I reached out to you. I reached out to you and asked you your thoughts. So look, I'll put it.
Talk about your running back. Talk about the running back breakdown that you're coming up with.
So it'll drop at 8:15 whenever your show ends, and yeah, watch what you normally want to watch. Whatever. I know some of you watch. I don't know if it's Dancing with the Stars season or whatever. I know there's a lot of different LSU channels or whatever.
It's a Bachelorette.
Bachelorette. But yeah, watch what you want to watch. I know a lot of you have, family things you have to do, but I highly recommend. This was the hardest I've ever worked on anything. I spent over a month crunching running back data. And tonight we're talking about weight. Like, how much does a running back's weight truly matter? And I was blown away when I started looking into how much running back is just determined by how heavy you are. And legit, my jaw was to the floor when I started digging a little bit deeper. And what was really fascinating about it, Blake, is it really mattered which conference you're in. Okay. I was shocked at how many 195 and below running backs ended up having long NFL careers, and the ones that chose to play in the SEC where everybody's bigger and faster and stronger and injury rates up and all those different things. It's hard. It's really, really hard to be an undersized back in the SEC. So what I wanted to look into is how much does it matter? And there's so many different factors. And if you watch a video later tonight, you will, see it all for yourself. So appreciate you. Can't wait to see this Joe Sloan interview. And let's do it. Don't melt down, LSU fans. Don't melt down. There's no reason to. Objectively speaking, there is no reason to. Okay. Just breathe in, breathe out. Okay.
All right. Carter, the power. Bryant, Power Hour LSU. Buddy, we'll talk to you next week.
See you, bud.
All right, later.